We are in Valley Springs, California, which is in the Central Valley. We came down from Yosemite to the Blackhawk Paramotor Ranch.
So paramotoring is a sport that I used to do before we hit the road, and I knew that there was this training facility out here in California. We reached out to them and they let us come stay on their ranch. It's an awesome sport that allows you to fly like a bird. I think next week we will give you a bit more information about it.
Yep, so tune in next week to learn more about powered paramotoring.
So coming down out of the mountains from Yosemite to Blackhawk, it turned out to be kind of difficult. It was windy mountain roads the whole way, and then as we got closer, we were on a county maintained road, but it disintegrated into a two-track, fell apart, and then crossed a stream, and
there was nowhere to turn around. There was all these low branches that we just had to power through, and it was a very stressful drive. We weren't sure we were actually going to make it.
So this week we wanted to talk to you guys about overheight clearance in RVs, because we had to deal with that with the branches, and navigation, how we get from place to place and try to avoid situations like we had when getting here.
Yeah, so first of all, talking about overhead clearance, our RV is about 12'6". That's including the air conditioner.
And that's a pretty standard height for a lot of fifth wheels. Like 12 to 12.6 is pretty normal for fifth wheels, but I think you can see fifth wheels as tall as 13 feet. Usually the travel trailers are the shortest, then you get the Class Bs and Cs that are a little bit taller, truck campers, and then Class As are even taller, and then fifth wheels tend to be the tallest of all the rigs on the market.
So we don't typically have a lot of issue with it. Going down the highway and the overpasses, we don't typically have any issues of any kind. You also got to watch out for bridges and tunnels. We did have a little bit of a sticky situation with a tunnel one time in our travels.
Yeah, it was, I think the height was below our overheight at the corner, and it usually says like height at curb, but in the center we were okay. So we had to make sure no one was coming on the other side and drive down the center of the road. Yeah. And I think we'd seen a semi-truck do it in front of us, so we knew we were okay. But yeah, those curved tunnels, you know, they might not be high enough for your air conditioner at the curb or near the center, so you might, on the edge, you might need to be driving near the center.
Yeah, so you really got to watch out for those. Usually the bridges and tunnels that are shorter than 12 feet or at 12 feet, they're very clearly marked, so you do really have to read the signs.
And even on the highway, read the signs. It's just good practice when you're driving a really tall RV. You know, it'll 14 foot 1 inch or something like that. Just get to know that, know your height. And, you know, if it's really close, you might want to think about at least slowing down or finding an alternate route.
Yeah, but by far, branches have been our biggest overhead issue. Typically on main roads, they trim them or they get hit by semis. So if a semi-truck typically traverses that road, you're probably going to be okay.
We do find in small towns a lot of times they'll have like trees in the median or something like that for our, you know, for looks, and they can sometimes be an issue too. We'll catch them on the corner of the RV, so we try to kind of avoid lanes that have that, but usually those aren't really a huge issue, because the big issue is your roof. Your roof is vinyl, rubber a lot of times on these, and a sharp branch can tear it very easily.
Yes, so you may run into those types of branches hanging over the road if you're, say, taking a country road out to a campground, or you're trying to get into a friend or family member's driveway. A lot of times you just might not think about that, and you'll think about, you know, can I get in here, you know, level-wise or windy-wise, not think about the branches. And it really is a big hindrance, especially if they're big, significant branches that you're not going to be able to move.
Yeah, like getting here, we had to squeeze through a lot of branches, and you know, you try to kind of meander around them, drive around them if possible, but a lot of times you just can't. And because of that, when you get to your location, if you know you've been in low branches, get up on the roof and check it. Make sure you don't have any tears, because you know, you get water in there, you can immediately do damage to the roof. But just carry some like a Turnabond sealant tape with you and just check the roof. The second we got here, I got up on the roof and I checked everything. Somehow we didn't end up with any tears because we went through a lot of branches. It did take a chunk out of our TV antenna. There's like a plastic cover on it and there's a piece missing, but you know, that's okay, it doesn't matter. We don't want leaks.
Yeah. So we have been in situations where we've had to drive through branches and they've been minimal enough that we'd be able to move them, and I would not recommend it. Don't do this, but I have on a couple of occasions climbed up on top of the RV while Tom has driven very slowly past the branches, and I'll move them.
We've cut them too, a couple times.
Yeah,
like we're going into
friends'
houses. I think we've trimmed them a few times.
Yep, so I've climbed up there and cut the branches or moved them or broken them so that they weren't a problem. So don't do that, but that's what we did.
So being over height really hasn't prevented us from going any places that we wanted to go. Our navigation has not taken us through anything that has a too low of a bridge, and I think that's because we try to stick to main roads primarily, where like a semi-truck or something might go, and typically the bridges are plenty high in those situations. But yeah, definitely be concerned with branches. It's just going to happen. You're going to run into them. It doesn't matter what type of RV. If you're in a shorter RV, you're probably going to try to squeeze into smaller places, and you're still going to run into branches. So just be cautious about that.
So how can you avoid running into these situations, or finding a county road that turns into a 2-track somewhere along the line? I don't really know if there's a good answer for that. As far as navigation, we use Google Maps on our phones, and that has led us astray a number of times.
Yeah, but usually when we're trying to get somewhere weird, like right here. So okay, so there are RV navigation software or GPSs as well. I think Garmin makes one, Rand McNally makes one. I think there's one you can download on your phone called Copilot. And
we haven't tried any of them. They
are specific to RV navigation, and they're supposed to help you figure out what's the best route. In the situation that we're in currently, I don't really think it would have helped, because actually there's 2 ways in. One way is a 2-track that crosses a river, and the other way is an incredibly windy mountain road. And we're going to go out that way because it's paved, but a GPS may have gone, well, that's a steep, windy mountain road. You don't want to do that. Take the 2-track instead. Yeah. So I don't think a GPS would have helped us in this situation. We're just out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. But they are supposedly better for helping you route an RV.
Yeah. We would really love to hear your guys' feedback on if you have used any of these devices, because we have had people ask us about RV navigation tools, so we'd love to hear your thoughts. But I guess what we have been doing, because we're frugal, don't want to invest in something like that we're not sure will really help us out based on where we want to go. But what I would say is, when you can, ask a local to the area, or if you're going to a campground, call them and ask them, what is the best way for me to get there? Because the GPS will tell you, hey, there's like 4 different ways you could get there, and it's best to talk to somebody who actually knows those roads to tell you what condition they're in and which way you should go. Because a lot of times it might be worth driving an extra 10 miles to save you a whole lot of stress.
When we don't have a local to tell us where to go, however, we do try to look at the maps with satellite imagery. We'll zoom in and go like, is this a 2-track dirt road? Unfortunately, somehow I missed that on this one.
It was covered with trees.
Yeah, you couldn't see it. But we'll also look at the terrain. We'll switch to the terrain, and we'll look at it and we'll go, okay, is it driving through a valley, or is this thing going right up and over this mountain? So that will help us out as well. And we also use the satellite imagery a lot for parking lots. When you're trying to get into like a gas station or something, yep, we look at the satellite and we go, okay, can we actually make these turns? Can we get in here? Because it's very common that you could get into a parking lot and get stuck. So that's how we navigate. There's really nothing special to it. You just sometimes end up in sticky situations. There's just nothing you can do about it. Not all roads are the greatest for RVs.
Yes, but do be careful, and when you find yourself in one of those sticky situations, remember to breathe, which I sometimes forget to do, and you know, just try to figure it out one step at a time. And if it's a choice between, you know, scratching the rig and putting yourself in a dangerous situation, scratch your rig. Put a hole in the roof. You know, run through those branches. Don't go falling off a cliff trying to avoid branches, because it's not worth it.
So we're obviously not experts on this. Does anybody else have any tips or tricks? If you'd share them with us, we'd be greatly appreciative, and pass them on in the comments of the information or a future video. If we learn some more, we'll share it with you down the road.
Safe travels, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in this week. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We'd love to have you along for our journey.
Let us know if you have any other questions or comments, and we will see you next week.
Bye!